Any questions on color before we move on? All right, so working with charts and graphs. So you can, copy and paste charts directly onto the artboard. But if any of you have tried this, will know that particularly coming from Excel, can be a pain working with them. So a better way to do it is to save your chart as a PDF and then open that PDF in Illustrator. Now it's still, it's better. It's not great, but it's better. So once you open it in PDF, open the chart in PDF. Once you open the PDF in Illustrator, what you're going to see is if you select the chart, you're going to see every element of that chart is basically added as an independent layer in the Illustrator. So one of the things you'll notice if we look closely at this is that a lot of the elements that are layered are in these clipping groups. So these are essentially clipping masks. And this is why, importing, working with your Excel files in Illustrator can sometimes be a pain, because to access the elements that are within these clipping groups, you'll have to click on it. That expands the clipping group, and then you have to click on the item in that to actually manipulate it. Sometimes you'll have clipping groups within clipping groups, so you might have to click on it 2 or 3 times to get to the thing you're actually trying to edit. So there is an easy way around this. So if you select the entire chart, and worth remembering this, the shortcut, if you select the entire chart, you can click Control-Alt-7 in Windows or Command-Option-7 in Macs. And what that will do is that will release all the elements from their clipping groups. So if you have clipping groups, so we have clipping masks within clipping groups, you may need to hit that Control-Alt-7 2 or 3 times. But in the end, what you want to see is, again, you'll have every element in its own layer, but you'll have the direct elements accessible. So anytime you click on an object, you're going to be working with the actual object rather than the clipping group that it's a part of. So, again, we're working with graphs and charts. We want to make everything consistent. I remember the pain of, when I was to do this, I used to go through and select each element of the chart and change it, every single chart, changing the color or the font, element by element was pain in the ass. But there is actually an easier way to do this. So in Illustrator, if you select an element on the chart and then under Select and Same, you'll have a range of options here where you can basically select other elements that have similar appearances or attributes. So, and they can be, stroke or fill color, font-based attributes. So it may be necessary. So, if you select on a text element or a line element, a bar element of your figure, it may be necessary to sometimes try a couple of different options here to get the list of elements that you want. So I'll give you an example here. So with this chart, and I should point out all this pink text. So this is an example of Illustrator not having the embedded font that was used in Excel when this was brought in. So in this case, I've selected the figure label here, number 8, and hopefully you can see the blue line around here. So I've selected that, and then I've gone, find same font family. So what it's done is it's selected every element of text in the graph. So the figure, the labels, the axis labels, the labels underneath, the chart title, all of that selected. So if I only want to change my axis labels, this would not be the option to go with. If I choose the same element and then this time choose, find same font family, style, and size, now my selection only includes the axis labels. So it's excluded the labels underneath, and it's excluded the chart title. So sometimes trying different options will help you to select the specific elements that you want. And again, the same option can be applied if we wanted to change the colors of the lines and the icons and the error bars and all that sort of stuff. Again, clicking on one of them and then finding everything else the same line, style, color, etc. This can, if you've got 3 or 4 charts in your figure, and you can essentially change all of those elements at once. Particularly handy when you give your presentation, your figure to your supervisor. They say, "Oh, it's all right, but I don't like the color scheme." Go back and change them all. So change them all with a relatively few number of clicks. All right, so aligning and distributing objects. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the basic aligning tools that either Illustrator, it's pretty much the same as other applications. This was an animated GIF. You can use an easy way to do, one way, a useful tool to use is to use the ruler and guides. So if you can click Control R or Command R and Max, you'll get this ruler across the top of your tops and sides of your images. So that's kind of useful just for being able to see quickly and easily roughly what size all your figure elements are. Once you've got that ruler, once you open the ruler up, if you click and drag from the left side over here, you can create vertical guides. If you click and drag from the top down, you can create horizontal guides. So, if you've got a panel, a figure, and you want, 2 or 3 columns of graphs or rows or of elements, creating those guides makes it very easy for you to align all the different elements that you're putting them in, so that they're all lined up, in the right position. You can also use the align tool to align elements. Something took me a long time to figure out is obviously, you can align items to the page. You can align items to each other, but there's also an option for aligning objects to a key object. So in this case, so a couple examples here, we've got our 3 objects. We're going to align top, and in this case, we're just aligning to the selected objects. So because we're aligning top, it aligns them all to the top of the highest element, right? But I used to run it a lot where maybe you put one of those elements exactly where you want it, and so when you click align, you want everything to align to that element rather than have them all align to some middle point that isn't really where you want any of them to be. So if you select the align to key object, so make these on different colors just so it's more obvious. If you click on the object that you want to use as your key object, so that object will become highlighted in blue. So now if we do an align top, instead of aligning to the top of this, it will align everything to the top of that key element. So this is a great way for making sure you align things, to the object that you actually want them to align to. All right, layers. Highly recommend using layers when you're working with your artboards. So the layers are arranged in a stack, and each layer essentially sits on top of the layers underneath it. So objects in layer 5 will be in front of objects in layer 1 and layer 2, and so on and so forth. One of the advantages of using layers is it allows you to organize your artboard. So, I used to often use to run, the problem I'd have 3 or 4, maybe charts on there, and I'll be trying to select the elements of one of the charts, and, picking up, because if they were close enough together or if they were slightly overlapping, I'd be clicking on elements that are in the other chart instead of the one that I want. So by putting if you put each chart or figure or whatever into a different layer, you can then lock those layers so that you can edit the other elements of your figure without editing the ones that you've already got the way you want, or, so you can choose to hide layers or show layers just to make it easy to see what you're doing. You can lock individual layers so that you won't be able to select or make changes to the elements in that layer. And if you double click on the layer, you can change the layer name. So giving them something more meaningful than layer 1, layer 2 will make it easier to find the things you're looking for. You can also change the color of the layer. And where that comes in handy is that the elements that are within each layer. When you select those elements, the selection tool will essentially, they'll be in whatever color the layer is. So in the example here, our image is in layer 2, which is green. So when we select our image, I mean, this is actually selecting everything, but our image is selected in green. Our line here is selected in orange. Our text has a blue selection, and our shape here has a pink or whatever it is selection, right? And so again, here you can see, our line and text are sitting on top of layer 2, so therefore they're in front of the image, so we can actually see those elements, whereas our rectangle here is below layer 2, so therefore it's sitting behind, so you won't see. So arranging your elements, your layers, and using different layers for each element of your figure can make organizing them and rearranging everything a lot easier.